The Bible's book of Revelation paints a vivid account of the end of the world. But the story of how it's written is even more astonishing. It begins in a mysterious cave on a remote island in Greece.
There's a small cave marked by some large boulders. It's just an empty space with undulating stone walls, nothing noteworthy at first glance. This area is full of caves. But this one's special. In fact, it might be one of the most unique and important caves in history, and one of the most sacred.
It's called the Cave of the Apocalypse.
The Cave of the Apocalypse is the place where Christians worldwide believe that the Bible's book of Revelation was written. Here, in this cave, is where God reveals the details to the book's author, a man named John, who has come to be known as John of Patmos, or John the Revelator.
There are indications in the book that suggest John might have lived in Jerusalem during Roman occupation, either as a contemporary of Jesus or within a few years of Jesus' death. Therefore, he's among the earliest Christians.
But in these very young days of this new religion, Christianity is not the global powerhouse it eventually becomes. It's actually labeled an illegal superstition and a crime by the ruling Roman authorities.
Rome had a habit of sending criminals to Patmos, especially Christians. If they're going to go around preaching illegal beliefs, might as well send them off to an isolated island where they can't influence anybody.
Like John, who's banished to Patmos in 90 AD, along with fellow disciple Prochorus.
Prochorus is actually one of Jerusalem's very first Christian deacons. On Patmos, he serves as John's companion and scribe.
John is thought to be quite old at this time, but he makes it to Patmos. And not only that, he locates the perfect cave for shelter.
The cave's most unique feature might be its most powerful.
Along one wall of the cave, there are 3 thin fissures, and it's been described as a threefold split in ancient descriptions of the site. These openings, they're unusual from a geological standpoint.
This threefold split might be the entire reason John chooses the cave from among the many others. He believes it represents his religion's Holy Trinity. As an early Christian, he believes in God as one being who exists in 3 persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Not long after settling in the cave, John describes hearing a booming voice. He's convinced it's the Lord himself, and this voice is coming through the 3 cracks in the rock. This voice tells John that he's about to be shown something very important, and he has to write down exactly what he sees.
There are earthquakes. All the water on Earth turns to blood. The sun and moon darken, and the stars begin to fall from the sky. It's truly a frightening and fantastic vision.
This story reads like no other part of the Bible. In no other part of the Bible are you reading about cosmic wars between the forces of good and evil, cataclysmic battles with monsters, including a bright red 7-headed beast marked with the number 666.
In the end, God sends an angelic army down to Earth to help save the day.
This army is led by the Lamb who had been slain, which is Jesus Christ, the Alpha and Omega, who wages the final battle, the Battle of Armageddon.
All of these horrors will finally end when Satan, in the form of a giant monster, is captured and bound, thrown into a lake of fire, and the wicked are all destroyed. That is the end of the world as we know it.
After the final battle and final judgment, all those who are deemed to be good can live alongside God himself.
Immediately after receiving these visions, John relays them to his scribe Prochorus, who writes what will become the Book of Revelation.
The Book of Revelation becomes a foundational text of the new religion. Not only is it chosen from among thousands of early Christian writings to be one of the books of the canonical Bible, but it's the capstone. It's the final word of the scriptures.
Remember the year 2012? I do. It seemed like the whole world went crazy. There were books, There were movies, there were documentaries, all claiming that this was going to be the year that the world ended.
And it all starts with an artifact from the ancient ruins of Quirigua in eastern Guatemala.
There is archaeological evidence that the Maya people lived at Quirigua from at least 350 BC. In the city's heyday at around 750 AD, there would have been up to 2,000 residents there. This was a small but important center in the eastern Mesoamerican world.
While not much evidence remains, there is a series of large, intricately carved stone slabs known as stelae.
Stelae were erected by rulers to convey royal history, make political statements, celebrate victories, and they are massive, the tallest rising to 35 feet. They're also covered with pictures, as well as Maya script, which is a hieroglyphic type of writing that they used for 2,000 years, all the way up to the Spanish conquest in the 16th and 17th centuries.
But there's one in particular many believe predicts the end of the world.
Stela C is a 12-foot high pillar of red sandstone, featuring a hieroglyphic inscription showing the Maya creation story. And it includes an intricate calendar entry, a set of dates from what's known as the Maya long count calendar.
The Maya have an expert knowledge of math, engineering, and astronomy, which allows them to develop one of the most accurate calendars ever devised by an ancient society.
It's not just the accuracy that gets people's attention.
What's particularly interesting about this calendar is that it appears to have a start date and an end date. Across 5 blocks of carving, Stela C lists the actual date when Maya believe the current world was created. The 5 squares each depict an individual measurement of time. Within those, dots represent 1, lines represent 5, an image of a shell or a flower represents 0. So on Stela C, we can see that the date of the world's creation is 13 baktuns, 0 katuns, 0 tuns, 0 uinals, and 0 kens.
So how does that correspond to our own calendar? Well, if you add up the numbers, the Maya are saying that their world began on what would be August 4th, 3114 BC. For context, that suggests that Maya civilization predates the oldest known Egyptian pyramid by about 500 years.
But what about the date for the end of the world?
According to the calculations on this calendar, it would be December 21st, 2012.
While the calendar reveals when the world is going to end, it doesn't include how.
Once word of the Maya prophecy spreads, people start floating various end-of-day scenarios that range from the plausible, like the world could end from nuclear war or a massive solar flare event, to the outlandish, like a reversal of the magnetic poles or Earth colliding with a mythical planet called Nibiru.
As December 21st, 2012 approaches, a media frenzy erupts.
There's polling that shows that up to 10% of the population across 21 countries believe that the end of the world is imminent. NASA even launches a public outreach website to help calm everybody's nerves. The agency receives tens of thousands of inquiries from people. Some even ask if they should kill themselves or their kids, God forbid. People are freaking out because nobody knows what to expect, but they're convinced it's going to be bad.
Thankfully, when December 22nd dawns, the hubbub settles down pretty quickly, and we all now know the world did not end in 2012. People breathe a collective sigh of relief, and they figure, well, the Maya clearly didn't know what they were talking about. We got all worked up over nothing.
But what if the original calculations were wrong?
Remember, the Maya are highly advanced for their time in a number of scientific areas. Is it possible that the end of the world predicted by Stela C is real? It's just not when we thought.
In 2018, an independent researcher named Lauren Jeffries attempts to recalculate the date.
Jeffries points out that while a tun is 360 days, The Maya knew the solar year was slightly longer. They measured it at 364 days, not 365, but still, they were pretty close. The problem is that later, when working this all out, we didn't account for the extra 4 or 5 days. And Jeffrey says that if we do, then the end date is 75 years after we thought, which would put it in the year 2087.